The universe operates according to immutable spiritual laws that are as precise and unfailing as any physical law governing matter and energy. Among these divine principles, none is more profound or more frequently misunderstood than the creative power inherent in the spoken word. Your declarations are not mere wishes floating aimlessly in the atmosphere, nor are they desperate pleas cast toward an indifferent cosmos. They are spiritual commands that set universal law into motion with the authority of divine decree, for your word serves as the bridge between the invisible realm of infinite supply and its visible manifestation in your experience. When you speak with genuine conviction and unwavering faith, you engage with the fundamental creative principle that brought the entire universe into existence. The same power that spoke worlds into being flows through your vocal expression when you align your words with spiritual truth. This understanding transforms every declaration from a good, hopeful request into an authoritative decree that the universe must honor according to immutable spiritual law. Your word becomes the connecting link that allows the treasures of the invisible realm to cross over into physical reality, making you a conscious co-creator with the infinite intelligence that governs all manifestation. Every word you utter carries within it the seeds of manifestation, planted in the fertile soil of universal consciousness. The subconscious mind, that faithful and impartial servant, accepts your declarations without question or debate. It holds no sense of humor, no irony, no understanding of just kidding. When you declare constantly that money is hard to come by, it accepts this blueprint and erects barriers to your own good. When you say you always miss your chance, it will hide opportunities in plain sight. But when you declare with authority that your supply is immediate, inexhaustible, and irresistibly attracted to you, your inner creative mechanism sets to work, dissolving blockages and opening channels you could not contrive through effort alone. The quality of faith behind your words determines their creative potency. Faith is not blind belief or wishful thinking, but the spiritual substance that gives weight and authority to your declarations. When you speak with faith, you speak with the confidence of one who knows that spiritual law is always working, always reliable, and always responsive to properly directed consciousness. This faith transforms your words from empty sounds into vessels carrying divine power. True spiritual command requires alignment between your conscious declarations and your subconscious beliefs, which is why inner work becomes essential to effective word power. Consider the shopkeeper who fretted each morning about slow sales, pacing and wringing his hands while repeating to anyone who would listen that nobody was buying and it was a bad season. Every day, faithfully obeyed his announcement until, weary of struggle, he took up the practice of speaking a new word before opening his door. Standing at the threshold, he would declare with quiet authority, "This is a day of divine appointments. The right people are magnetized to this shop. Every article has its buyer, and supply and demand meet here by law." Within a week of this shift, from complaint to command, a local publication featured his unique offerings without his seeking it. A tour group detoured to his street due to construction elsewhere, and inventory began moving as if called by name. Method had replaced madness when the spoken word set the proper tone. Your declarations work most effectively when they acknowledge what already exists in the spiritual realm rather than attempting to create something new. Abundance is not manufactured by your words, it is recognized and claimed through them. When you declare your prosperity, you are not informing the universe of your desires, but acknowledging your divine inheritance. This shift in understanding transforms you from a supplicant begging for favors into an heir claiming rightful inheritance. The universe responds not to the volume of your voice, but to the conviction behind it. A whispered declaration, spoken with absolute faith, carries more creative power than a shouted affirmation filled with doubt. The emotional quality you bring to your declarations significantly impacts their effectiveness. Words spoken with gratitude, joy, and expectation carry a different vibrational frequency than words spoken with desperation, fear, or doubt. Cultivating positive emotions while making declarations amplifies their creative power and accelerates manifestation. This is why joining the spoken word with thanksgiving becomes crucial. Gratitude serves as the oil in the lamp of your decree, sealing the pattern and announcing trust. The ungrateful mouth leaks its good, while the thankful mouth gathers abundance. The timing of manifestation following your declarations depends largely on your consciousness and the clarity of your spiritual vision. Some declarations manifest immediately because they encounter no resistance in your belief system. Others may require longer to materialize, as they work through layers of doubt, fear, and limiting beliefs accumulated over time. The key lies in maintaining your declarations consistently, regardless of immediate appearances, knowing that your word works beneath the surface even when visible results remain unseen. Repetition of declarations serves not to convince a reluctant universe, but to convince your own subconscious mind of the truth you speak. Each repetition deepens the groove of belief in your consciousness and strengthens the magnetic power of your words. This is why daily affirmation practice proves so valuable. You program your mind to accept and expect the abundance you declare, creating perfect internal conditions for external manifestation. Water your declarations with patience, as the farmer waters without worry, watching for sprouts and celebrating small evidences as heralds of larger demonstrations. Your declarations create an invisible field of expectation around you that attracts circumstances, opportunities, and people aligned with your spoken word. This field operates like a magnet, drawing to you the very things you have declared with faith and conviction. Consider the artist who long declared that she couldn't sell her work because people don't pay for art. Her exhibitions were well attended, but purchases remained rare until she chose a new practice. Each time she finished a piece, she would stand before it and declare, "You are a blessing seeking your rightful owner. The one who needs you is already on the way. You pay me richly, and you bless the home you enter, under grace." Without fanfare, commissions began arriving. Hotels sought her work for displays, and gallery invitations multiplied. She had stopped chasing patrons and started commissioning her word to bring them. Guard your conversations with vigilance, for idle talk about lack is not harmless, but seed scattering. Do not let others draft you into their theater of shortage. When someone insists on rehearsing calamity, bless them silently and change the subject aloud, or better yet, raise a banner of truth by declaring that wonderful things are happening for them. The pure word needs no defense. It carries its own evidence. Make your tongue a tuning fork for abundance, and when your mind wanders to worry, speak over it with authority. There exists profound healing in speaking to your past, releasing old vows made in fear. Declare boldly, "I dissolve every idle word I have spoken against my own wealth. I forgive myself for all such decrees, and I replace them now with living truth." The law holds no grudges against your past. It responds to your present word. A single clear decree can uproot an entire forest of old thorny declarations that have limited your good. Speak to your for the decree environment as well, putting your home and workplace in conversation with abundance. As you arrange your desk, declare it the command center of prosperous ideas. As you balance accounts, announce that these numbers are obedient to increase. As you dress each morning, affirm that you clothe yourself in confidence and favor. Words spoken into ordinary moments transform them into altars of demonstration. The rhythm of creative word power follows a natural pattern. Declare, release, listen, act. Declare the truth with authority. Release it by forbearing to meddle anxiously. Listen for the small, wise prompting that answers your decree. Act on that prompting without delay. Your declarations summon opportunities, but obedient action anchors them in physical reality. Many declarations fail to bloom because the declarer will not move when the door opens. Remember that you are not convincing a reluctant power, but collaborating with an eager one. The universe is responsive, not resistant, to a sponsive, true word. Speak as a rightful heir, not as a trespasser. When you declare, I move in my divine right, money serves my highest good, I am guided, guarded, and supplied. Such words arrange events in your favor because they first arrange you in favor of events. Your word becomes the law in your experience, when spoken with the authority of one who knows their divine inheritance and claims it without apology or hesitation. This creative power of spoken word interlocks seamlessly with consciousness of abundance over pursuit of lack, which teaches proper placement of your word in wealth rather than want. It connects with divine right and spiritual inheritance, which grounds your decrees in your true identity as heir to infinite supply. It works in harmony with intuitive guidance over forced action, showing you the inspired steps that answer your declarations. Finally, it operates through the law of circulation and generous giving, which keeps channels open so your decrees return, multiplied rather than stifled, completing the perfect circuit of abundant manifestation through the divine authority of your spoken word. The fundamental distinction between consciousness of abundance and pursuit of lack represents the most crucial understanding in the realm of prosperity, manifestation, operating not merely as philosophical concept, but as immutable spiritual law that determines whether wealth flows toward you or retreats from your grasp with mathematical precision. When you chase money, you confess with every breath and hurried step that you do not possess it, creating an energetic announcement of distance and separation that forms an invisible wall of resistance around the very thing you seek. This consciousness of scarcity emanates vibrations that repel prosperity, for the universe responds to your inner state with perfect fidelity, delivering more experiences that confirm your belief in limitation and struggle. The chase itself is an admission of lack, a banner, waving over your life, declaring that your good exists elsewhere and must be captured through force. This pursuit consciousness operates from a profound misunderstanding of your true relationship to abundance, assuming that supply is finite, that you must compete for your portion, and that wealth exists outside of you as something to be wrestled into submission. Like a hungry person frantically chasing a mirage in the desert, the harder you pursue, the more elusive prosperity becomes, receding further with every desperate step. Consider the traveling salesman who spent years driving frantically from appointment to appointment, growing more desperate with each rejection, his anxiety mounting as bills accumulated. His consciousness was entirely focused on what he lacked, how much he needed, and how difficult it was to secure sales. Every conversation began with internal worry about quota. Every presentation carried the heavy energy of desperation, and every rejection confirmed his growing belief that success was elusive. He was chasing money from a consciousness of scarcity, and money responded by remaining perpetually just out of reach, for clients sensed his desperate energy and instinctively withdrew their interest. The consciousness of lack creates internal tension, anxiety, and frantic energy that broadcasts to the universe a clear message of insufficiency. This mindset views money as a finite commodity that must be hoarded, fought over, or acquired at the expense of others, breeding envy, competition, and a perpetual sense of not enoughness. Even when possessing substantial sums, one operating from scarcity consciousness remains imprisoned in endless cycles of fear about loss, unwillingness to share, and constant worry about future needs. This state of mind creates energetic blockages that hinder the natural flow of abundance, much like standing before a boundless ocean with only a thimble, lamenting the absence of water. Abundance consciousness operates from an entirely different foundation of understanding, recognizing that infinite supply is your natural inheritance and that wealth is a spiritual quality expressing through material form. This consciousness rests in the knowing that you are not separate from abundance, but are an individualized expression of the same infinite intelligence that creates and sustains all wealth. From this understanding, you cease the exhausting effort of trying to make prosperity happen, and instead allow it to happen through you by maintaining proper spiritual alignment with universal law. The shift from pursuit to magnetic attraction requires complete reorientation of your mental and emotional patterns, transforming you from a hunter pursuing elusive prey into a magnet drawing abundance through irresistible spiritual law. When the same traveling salesman finally exhausted himself through frantic chasing, he discovered this principle through necessity. Sitting in his car after another disappointing day, he made a radical decision to stop running after sales and start attracting them. Each morning before beginning his route, he would declare with quiet authority, "I am a magnet for ideal clients. The right people seek me out today. Every conversation flows easily, and abundant orders come to me under grace." Within days of this shift, referrals began appearing from unexpected sources. Clients started calling him directly, and his sales increased dramatically while his effort decreased proportionally. This consciousness transformation manifests practically through your daily mental diet and emotional atmosphere. When abundance consciousness governs your thinking, you naturally expect good things to happen. You see opportunities where others see obstacles, and you approach financial matters with calm confidence rather than anxious fear. Your conversations reflect this inner state as you speak words of increase rather than decrease, possibility rather than limitation, and gratitude rather than complaint. This internal atmosphere creates perfect conditions for prosperity to manifest through multiple channels simultaneously. The creative power of spoken word becomes exponentially more effective when rooted in abundance consciousness rather than lack consciousness. Words spoken from abundance carry the authority of truth and align with universal law, while words spoken from lack create resistance and contradiction. When you declare your prosperity from abundance consciousness, you speak as one who already possesses spiritual wealth and simply calls it into material form. This alignment between consciousness and declaration creates unstoppable manifestation power, for your mouth becomes the gateway through which inner riches enter commerce with the outer world. The cultivation of abundance consciousness requires constant vigilance against the world's hypnosis of lack. Society continuously broadcasts messages of limitation, competition, and scarcity through news, reports focusing on economic difficulties, conversations revolving around financial struggles, and advertising creating artificial needs by highlighting what you supposedly lack. Maintaining abundance consciousness demands deliberate practice of seeing through these illusions to the spiritual truth of unlimited supply. Begin with your inner picture, for the mind is a projector and the world your screen. If your inner reel contains scenes of worry, shortage, and struggle, you will live in that theater until you choose a different film. Replace images of scrambling after money with scenes of perfect order and right circulation. Bills stamped paid, bank accounts flourishing, work that delights you, doors swinging inward, checks arriving under grace in perfect ways. See yourself giving with joy and receiving with ease. Picture yourself as a great station of supply through which blessings pass freely to all concerned. The subconscious mind accepts the pictures you dwell upon and reproduces to them faithfully. So give it portraits of plenty, to engrave and present. Consider the shopkeeper who fretted each morning about slow sales, pacing and wringing his hands while repeating to anyone who would listen that nobody was buying and it was a bad season. Every day faithfully obeyed his announcement until, weary of struggle, he adopted the practice of speaking a new word before opening his door. Standing at the threshold, he would declare with quiet authority, "This is a day of divine appointments. The right people are magnetized to this shop. Every article has its buyer, and supply and demand meet here by law." Within a week of this shift from complaint to command, a local publication featured his unique offerings without his seeking it. A tour group detoured to his street due to construction elsewhere, and inventory began moving as if called by name. The practical application of abundance consciousness involves training your attention to focus consistently on supply rather than demand, on what you have rather than what you lack, and on possibilities rather than limitations. When bills arrive, instead of panicking about payment, bless them and declare the money already on its way. When opportunities seem scarce, instead of worrying about the future, give thanks for the perfect opportunities seeking you out. When others discuss economic difficulties, instead of joining the chorus of complaint, quietly maintain your consciousness of abundance and refuse to be drafted into mass hypnosis of lack. Abundance consciousness dissolves hurry, for hurry is the herald of fear, and fear is a poor treasurer. Where fear governs, waste and miscalculation abound. But when you are conscious of supply, you walk deliberately. You make purchases with a steady hand and clear mind. You choose opportunities by inner light rather than outer glitter. The anxious person asks, "What if there is not enough?" While the abundant soul answers, "What if there is nothing but enough?" 1. Premise creates grasping and grinding. The other creates grace. To cultivate this consciousness, practice the sacred art of non-resistance. Do not push against the bill, the obligation, or the unexpected expense, for resistance creates friction and heat without progress. Instead, bless the bill and declare it paid in full, saying, "You are proof that I am trusted with supply, and I bless the supply that meets you now." Some call bills enemies, but they are messengers announcing your place in the great circulation. When blessed, they return as friends bearing receipts and surplus, for nothing yields to the clenched fist while all responds to the open hand. This consciousness naturally leads to recognition of your divine right and spiritual inheritance, because abundance and consciousness understands that prosperity is not earned through struggle, but claimed through recognition of your true and spiritual nature. You realize that wealth is not a reward for good behavior, but an expression of divine law operating through individual consciousness. This recognition eliminates the need to justify your prosperity or prove your worthiness, allowing you to claim your inheritance with the natural confidence of a rightful heir. The maintenance of abundance consciousness flows seamlessly into intuitive guidance over forced action, because when you know that supply is unlimited, you can afford to wait for inspired direction rather than forcing outcomes through anxious effort. Abundance consciousness creates the inner peace necessary to hear the still small voice that guides you to perfect opportunities at perfect timing. This guidance system operates flawlessly when not clouded by the static of lack consciousness, for a mind free from the pursuit of lack remains open and receptive to the subtle promptings of inner wisdom. Furthermore, abundance consciousness supports the law of circulation and generous giving, because when you know that supply is infinite, you can give freely without fear of depletion. Generosity becomes natural rather than forced, flowing from overflow rather than obligation. When you truly believe that your supply is infinite, giving becomes a joyful expression of your abundance rather than a grudging sacrifice. You give freely, knowing that what you release into the flow will return to you multiplied, for the universe delights in generosity and responds to an open hand and loving heart. Order serves as another ally of abundance consciousness. Disorder is a silent vow to scarcity through piles of clutter, half-finished tasks, forgotten drawers, and mislaid documents. Such confusion whispers, "I cannot handle more." Put your house in order, and your affairs will follow. Clear your desk and declare it a command center for prosperous ideas. Organize your wallet and speak over it. You are a faithful steward of increase. Align your surroundings with the truth you affirm, and your environment will confirm your expectancy. Gratitude serves as a destazing to thou, powerful activator of abundance consciousness, for it acknowledges the good that already exists and thereby affirms the presence of more good. To be grateful for a single coin in your pocket is to declare your readiness for a treasury. To bless your current income, however modest, is to open the channels for its multiplication. This practice shifts your focus from what is missing to what is present, from what you lack to what you have, thereby elevating your vibrational frequency to one of abundance. Watch for subtle shifts as you practice. You make decisions faster and truer. Your body relaxes, your speech simplifies, your environment clears, synchronicities multiply, the right people appear without strain, unnecessary obligations fall away, bills are met in marvelous ways, money arrives from expected and unexpected sources, and generosity becomes a pleasure instead of a pose. These are signs that the old chase has ended and the new magnetism has begun. The woman who transformed her, struggling boutique, discovered this principle when she shifted from constantly worrying about slow sales to maintaining steady consciousness of abundant customers. Instead of chasing every potential buyer with desperate energy, she created an atmosphere of abundance through her consciousness. She arranged her merchandise with loving care, played beautiful music, and maintained inner peace regardless of foot traffic. Her new consciousness attracted customers who lingered longer, purchased more, and referred friends naturally. She had stopped chasing sales and started magnetizing them through the irresistible power of abundance, consciousness aligned with spiritual truth. Treat money as a noble servant, not a fickle master, for money follows purpose and flees compulsion. When money enters your hands, thank it and give it a good assignment. You go forth and multiply under grace. You return to me broadened by right action. Do not spend to impress, but spend to express your values. Purchase what sings of quality and usefulness, while bypassing what screams of vanity and haste. Money rejoices to be well used and returns with friends to places where it has been respected. Remember that abundance consciousness is impersonal law that does not play favorites but does follow focus. Two people may stand in the same economy, one declining and one ascending, not by whim of fate but by the inner premise they maintain. If your premise has been lack, you need not quarrel with yourself, but quietly adopt a new one, declaring, I am now aligned with the law of increase. I expect, accept, and enjoy continuous supply. Expectation without anxiety becomes the magnetic stance of abundance, and expectation is the mother of results. The most transformative realization in the realm of prosperity consciousness lies in understanding that abundance is not a prize to be won through struggle, a reward to be earned through worthiness, or a gift to be granted by external forces, but rather an inalienable inheritance that belongs to you by virtue of your divine nature as an individualized expression of infinite intelligence. This spiritual inheritance represents your birthright as a child of the universe, as natural and automatic as your heartbeat. Yet most people live their entire lives as tenants in the mansion of their own abundance, paying rent in worry and fear while the deed bears their signature in spiritual law. Your divine right to prosperity stems from the fundamental truth that you are not separate from the source of all wealth, but are wealth itself taking personal expression through your consciousness. Just as a wave is not separate from the ocean but is the ocean expressing itself in individual form, you are not separate from universal abundance, but are abundance manifesting through the unique channel of your being. This understanding completely transforms your relationship with money and material supply, shifting you from the position of a beggar pleading for crumbs to that of a rightful heir, claiming lawful inheritance without apology or hesitation. The prevailing belief that abundance must be earned through merit creates a fundamental contradiction in spiritual law, suggesting that infinite supply operates according to human judgments of worthiness and moral scorekeeping. This false teaching has imprisoned countless souls in cycles of struggle and self-punishment, believing they must prove themselves worthy of prosperity through suffering, sacrifice, or superior virtue. Yet consider the birds of the air and the flowers of the field, neither toiling nor spinning, yet abundantly supplied according to their nature. They claim their inheritance without question, guilt, or justification, operating in perfect harmony with the law of supply that provides for all creation according to divine order. Many live as tenants in the mansion of life, paying rent in worry, fear, and self-denial, not realizing the deed bears their signature in spiritual law. They wait for permission, for applause, for some outer authority to grant access to what is already theirs by spiritual birthright. The law has no hesitation about your worthiness because it knows only identity, not performance. A rose does not bargain for fragrance, it expresses it naturally. When you accept your divine identity, you cease bargaining for good and begin expressing it as your natural state of being. The process of claiming your inheritance begins with dissolving every limiting belief that contradicts your divine right to abundance. Family stories often weave unconscious vows around money through generations of programming that whispers, "We are not the kind who prosper, we suffer nobly. We get by." Such inherited vows are chains mistaken for jewelry, passed down through well-meaning relatives who themselves never discovered their spiritual inheritance. Stand still and declare with authority, "I dissolve every vow of poverty, invisibility, and struggle, my own and those inherited by suggestion. I forgive the past and call my inheritance to the present. I am the beloved of infinite source. I have a right to be rich in ideas, opportunities, joy, and money under grace." The law regards not the length of a chain forged over generations, but the clarity of a single true decree spoken with conviction. Consider the seamstress who spent years stitching late into the night, muttering that customers were stingy and times were hard. Her garments held excellence, but her words cut her prosperity to ribbons through constant declarations of limitation. One morning she discovered the law of inheritance and stood among her bolts of fabric to speak a new decree. "I work in my perfect expression and am lavishly compensated. Clients who value quality find me now. I am an heir to infinite supply, and my prices are accepted under grace." She raised her rates modestly, refined her offerings, and blessed each finished piece as a messenger seeking its right owner. Within weeks, a boutique requested consignment, a wedding planner added her to a preferred list, and a client moved by her workmanship introduced her to a circle of patrons. She had not forced doors, she had named herself heir, and doors swung inward of their own accord. Your spiritual inheritance includes not only material wealth, but also right ideas, perfect relationships, ideal opportunities, and complete self-expression. Ideas are coins of the realm in spirit, flooding like a tide when you claim your inheritance. They arrive as quiet certainties, sudden illuminations, and insistent nudges that carry the seeds of prosperity. Honor these inspired thoughts, write them down, and act upon them swiftly, for ideas are the carriers of supply, from the invisible to the visible realm. Do not despise small ideas. They are acorns containing forests of possibility. The creative power of spoken word becomes infinitely more potent when rooted in the consciousness of divine right, for your declarations carry the authority of one who knows their spiritual inheritance rather than the pleading tone of one who hopes for charity. When you speak from inheritance consciousness, you speak with the confidence of ownership, declaring what is already yours rather than begging for what you lack. Your word becomes the spiritual legal document, the deed to your inheritance, bringing it from the unseen into the seen realm of experience. The recognition of divine right naturally dissolves the competitive mindset that sees wealth as limited and believes that someone else's prosperity diminishes your own supply. When you know that your inheritance is guaranteed by spiritual law, you can celebrate others' success without envy or comparison, understanding that their abundance is proof of the same law that ensures your own prosperity. This shift from competition to celebration opens additional channels for your good to manifest, for the universe responds generously to addending consciousness that blesses rather than resents the prosperity of others. Living from inheritance consciousness requires treating money as a noble servant rather than a fickle master, for money follows purpose and flees compulsion. When money enters your hands, thank it and give it a good assignment. You go forth and multiply under grace. You return to me broadened by right action. Do not spend to impress, but spend to express your values, purchasing what sings of quality and usefulness, while bypassing what screams of vanity and haste. Money rejoices to be well used, and returns with friends to places where it has been respected and wisely stewarded. Your divine right operates under grace and in perfect ways, meaning without harm, without haste, without disappointment to others, in ways that bless all concerned. Perfect ways means orderly timing, fitting sequence, and precise amount. If an opportunity glitters but requires you to betray your integrity, it is not yours by divine right. If a purchase flatters vanity but offends wisdom, it is not yours by divine right. You need not fear missing your portion. What is yours cannot be stolen or spoiled, and what is not yours dissolves when you stop grasping. This understanding connects seamlessly with consciousness of abundance over pursuit of lack, because when you know that abundance is your birthright, you naturally maintain consciousness of having rather than lacking, of receiving rather than chasing, of inheriting rather than earning. The desperate energy that repels prosperity dissolves, replaced by magnetic confidence that attracts unlimited supply through multiple channels simultaneously. Furthermore, claiming your divine right harmonizes perfectly with intuitive guidance over forced action, because when you know that your inheritance is assured, you can afford to wait for inspired direction rather than forcing outcomes through anxious effort. The consciousness of divine right creates the inner peace necessary to prosegist the downed hap you are prosegist. Hear the subtle promptings that guide you to perfect opportunities at perfect timing. You move with the confidence of one who knows that all doors will open because you carry the key of spiritual authority. Consider the young musician who alternated between underpaid gigs and stretches of dry silence, convinced that art and abundance could not share a table. He began claiming his spiritual inheritance each morning. My perfect self-expression now finds perfect compensation. I do not earn my worth through struggle. I reveal it through service. The right audiences and sponsors seek me out. He stopped playing where his work was belittled, refined his repertoire, and shared pieces online with simple messages of blessing. A curator found his posts and offered a residency. A patron underwrote an album, and bookings began arriving from venues aligned with his sound. His music had not changed its soul. He had changed his status from outsider to rightful heir. Forgiveness serves as the master key that unlocks the treasury of inheritance, for resentment clogs the pipeline while release opens the flow. The aggrieved person says, "I will prosper when they make it right," not realizing that the law is neutral to grudges and responsive to release. Forgive not to excuse others, but to unstop your own channels. Declare with authority, "I freely forgive, and I am freely forgiven. I loose others, and I am loosed. My inheritance flows now without obstruction." Order becomes the outer proof of inner inheritance, while confusion mutters silent spells of lack. Put your affairs in order, as a sign and seal of your heir status. Clear a shelf and call it your receiving space. Tidy your accounts and declare them obedient to increase. Clean your wallet and welcome only what belongs there. When the outer aligns with the inner, channels widen naturally, and the heir knows where things belong, including the money that belongs to the heir. This consciousness naturally supports the law of Kan 1, circulation and generous giving, because when you know that your supply is guaranteed by divine law, you can give freely without fear of depletion. Generosity becomes a natural expression of your abundance, rather than a sacrifice that depletes your resources. You give from overflow rather than obligation, blessing others while simultaneously opening wider channels for your own continued supply. What you send on a happy journey returns with companions, multiplying through the joy of circulation. Gratitude serves as the language of heirs, not flattering but acknowledging what already exists in spiritual law. Give thanks before the package arrives, for in spirit it is already on your doorstep. Speak with quiet authority. I give thanks for generous supply now manifest. I rejoice in money arriving from expected and unexpected sources. Every time you find a coin, bless it as a herald of greater good. Every time you pay a bill, bless the circulation and expect the multiplied return. Your place, divine right, does not abolish work, but transforms it from drudgery into canvas for self-expression. You no longer trade life for money. Money becomes a token of the life you freely express through your unique gifts and talents. Begin each task by placing it under spiritual law. This work is my perfect self-expression for now. It blesses all concerned, expands my capacities, and pays richly under grace. If an assignment no longer serves your highest good, the law will release it gently and usher in the next right opportunity without struggle or strain. Remember that abundance consciousness is impersonal law that does not play favorites but does follow focus. Two people may stand in the same economy, one declining and one ascending, not by whim of fate but by the inner premise they maintain about their relationship to supply. If your premise has been lack, you need not quarrel with yourself, but quietly adopt a new one, declaring with the authority of spiritual inheritance, I am now aligned with the law of increase. I expect, accept, and enjoy continuous supply as my divine right under grace. Like a river flowing endlessly from its source to the ocean, you are not a separate drop struggling to find its way to abundance. You are the river itself, an individualized current within the vast flow of infinite supply. Your task is not to create the water, but to remove any dams or debris you have inadvertently placed in your own stream through limiting beliefs, fears, and feelings of unworthiness. By declaring your divine right, living from abundance consciousness, speaking with creative power, following intuitive guidance, and practicing generous circulation, you systematically remove these blockages, allowing the glorious current of your spiritual inheritance to flow freely and abundantly into every area of your experience. There exists a sacred economy in which right ideas, right people, and right opportunities arrive with unfailing precision when you move by inner direction rather than by frantic effort, for intuitive guidance represents the royal road to prosperity, while forced action leads through the thorn fields of worry, waste, and weariness. The fundamental distinction between these two approaches determines whether you swim effortlessly downstream with the current of universal law or exhaust yourself swimming upstream against the very flow that seeks to carry you to your integer on never dage to BS. Destination with grace and perfect timing. Forced action emerges from the consciousness of separation and scarcity, operating under the false belief that you must wrestle outcomes into submission through willpower, manipulation, and relentless effort. This approach assumes that the universe is reluctant to provide for you, that opportunities are scarce and must be captured through competition, and that your good exists somewhere outside of you, waiting to be hunted down like elusive prey. When you operate from this consciousness, every action carries the vibration of desperation and anxiety, creating resistance in the very fabric of universal law that responds by making your desired outcomes increasingly difficult to achieve. Consider the insurance agent who spent years making cold calls with growing desperation, following scripts and systems that promised success through sheer volume of contacts. His days were filled with rejection, his evenings with anxiety about quotas, and his weekends with dread about Monday's return to the battlefield. The harder he forced, the more elusive success became, for his energy carried the vibration of desperation that potential clients instinctively sensed and avoided. He was pushing against locked doors while the universe waited patiently to show him the keys that would make all doors swing inward effortlessly. Forced action creates a cascade of resistance because it operates contrary to spiritual law, which functions through attraction rather than compulsion, harmony rather than struggle, and divine timing rather than human impatience. When you attempt to force outcomes, you send energetic signals that contradict the creative power of spoken word. For while your mouth may declare abundance, your actions announce lack, fear, and distrust in universal provision. This internal contradiction creates static in your manifestation process, preventing your declarations from flowing freely into physical form. Intuitive guidance, by contrast, flows from the infinite intelligence that orchestrates the movement of planets, governs the changing of seasons, and coordinates the countless variables necessary for life to flourish on Earth. This same intelligence operates through your consciousness when you create the proper conditions for receiving its direction, providing you with precise instructions that lead to effortless manifestation of your desired good. Unlike the limited perspective of human logic, which can only see a fraction of available possibilities, divine guidance accesses unlimited information and arranges circumstances with mathematical precision to bring about the highest good for all concerned. The characteristics of true intuitive guidance distinguish it clearly from the chatter of anxiety, wishful thinking, or mental confusion. Authentic guidance arrives, clothed in simplicity and peace, rarely shouting but settling gently into your consciousness with quiet authority. It manifests as the idea that returns with gentle insistence, the phone call you feel sweetly led to make, the street you feel inclined to walk, or the sentence that writes itself upon your mind. True guidance brings a sense of rightness that transcends logical explanation, often suggesting actions that seem unrelated to your desired outcome, yet prove perfectly orchestrated when followed with faith. The test of authentic guidance lies in the inner atmosphere it creates. If a direction brings ease even while asking for courage, it belongs to you by divine right. If it brings frenzy and the heat of fear, set it down until peace confirms or corrects the prompting. Peace serves as the passport of divine ideas, for the universe operates through harmony and never guides you into actions that create internal turmoil or violate your integrity. Worry argues, calculates, and bargains, while guidance states its direction and then stands in quiet confidence, waiting for your obedient response. Consciousness of abundance over pursuit of lack creates the perfect foundation for receiving intuitive guidance, for when your mind is free from the frantic chase for money, it becomes clear and receptive to subtle inner promptings. Fear and anxiety clog the intuitive channels like debris in a stream, making it difficult to hear the gentle whispers of divine wisdom. But when you operate from the knowing that your supply is assured by spiritual law, your inner compass becomes finely tuned, guiding you effortlessly to opportunities that align perfectly with your highest good. The same insurance agent discovered this principle when exhaustion finally forced him to try a different approach. Instead of beginning each day with aggressive calling, he started with quiet meditation, asking for guidance about the most productive use of his time and energy. Within this stillness, subtle impressions would arise, suggesting specific people to contact, particular approaches to take, or unexpected activities that seemed unrelated to insurance sales. Initially skeptical, he began following these promptings with remarkable results that exceeded anything his forced efforts had produced. One morning, his inner guidance suggested attending a community breakfast he had never considered before. There he met a business owner who mentioned challenges with employee benefits, leading naturally to a conversation that resulted in his largest corporate sale to date. Another day, the prompting was to visit a longtime client just to check in, which led to referrals to 3 family members who each purchased policies. These divinely orchestrated encounters produced more business in a month than his previous year of forced calling, demonstrating the superior efficiency of guided action over anxious effort. The development of intuitive sensitivity requires cultivating the sacred art of inner listening through regular periods of stillness and receptivity. Begin each day by creating space for divine communion, sitting quietly and declaring, "I am divinely guided. I know the right thing to do at the right time, and I do it under grace in perfect ways." Then release all mental planning and scheming, allowing your consciousness to become like a still pond that perfectly reflects the sky of infinite wisdom. In this receptive state, ask specific questions about your financial affairs. What is my next right action regarding my business? How can I best serve and be compensated? What opportunities am I meant to pursue? Then listen not for dramatic revelations but for gentle impressions, subtle feelings, or quiet knowing that arises naturally. These promptings may come immediately or hours later while engaged in routine activities, for divine intelligence often speaks most clearly when the conscious mind is occupied with simple tasks. Divine right and spiritual inheritance reinforces your ability to trust intuitive guidance, because when you know that abundance is your birthright, you can afford to wait for inspired direction rather than forcing outcomes through anxious effort. The consciousness of divine right creates the inner peace necessary to hear subtle guidance, for a mind free from desperate grasping remains open and receptive to the gentle promptings of infinite wisdom. You move with the confidence of one who knows that perfect opportunities will present themselves at perfect timing because you are operating under divine law rather than human limitation. The timing aspect of intuitive guidance proves crucial to its effectiveness, for divine intelligence coordinates countless variables to create perfect opportunities that exist only within specific windows of possibility. When you receive a prompting to contact someone, visit a particular place, or take a specific action, the timing is rarely arbitrary but precisely calibrated to align with circumstances that make success inevitable. The fearful mind says, now or never, but guidance says, now or better, understanding that what appears as delay is often the law arranging details beyond your view. Consider the artist who struggled for years trying to force gallery representation through aggressive marketing and persistent submissions, meeting rejection after rejection while growing increasingly discouraged. When she finally surrendered the struggle and began asking for guidance about the best use of her creative energy, she received the unexpected prompting to teach art classes in her community. Though this seemed unrelated to her goal of gallery success, she followed the guidance and discovered that teaching not only provided steady income, but connected her with a network of art enthusiasts who naturally led to the gallery representation she had been forcing. Practical cultivation of intuitive guidance involves starting with small, low-risk promptings to build confidence in your ability to recognize and follow divine direction. You might receive guidance about which route to take to work, which book to read, or whom to call for lunch. As you practice following these minor promptings and witnessing their perfect orchestration, your faith in the process grows, making it easier to follow guidance in more significant areas of your financial life. The merchant, who insisted on renting a prominent storefront because foot traffic promised riches, discovered the wisdom of waiting for guidance when a quiet hesitation troubled his sleep despite every logical argument shouting, "Take it now." He paused, blessed the opportunity, and waited 3 days. On the third day, a smaller space around the corner became available at half the rent, with a landlord who loved his merchandise and promoted it to her network. That corner was not the map's best location, but it was his by divine designation, and the difference proved itself in peace, patronage, and profit. The creative power of spoken word becomes exponentially more effective when combined with intuitive guidance, for your declarations create the spiritual atmosphere, while inner wisdom reveals the specific actions that will manifest your spoken word in physical form. Words without inspired action remain potential energy, while action without spiritual direction often leads to wasted effort. The perfect marriage of declaration and intuitive guidance creates unstoppable manifestation power, for you speak the word that sets universal law in motion, and then follow the inner promptings that bring your decree into visible form. Guidance will never command you to betray integrity or harm another, for the law of prosperity operates through harmony and right relationship. If an action promises quick money at the price of your peace, it does not come from the inner court of divine wisdom. When in doubt, speak this safeguard: only right action prevails. What is not right for me dissolves and is replaced by what is perfect for my highest good. You cannot lose by refusing the wrong thing, for refusing creates space for the right opportunity to arrive unmarred by compromise. The cultivation of obedience completes the guidance process, for many receive divine promptings and then bury them under analysis until their life force dissipates. The law brings a boat to the shore, but you must step into it before the tide changes. Take the small step in front of you with a willing heart, make the call, send the note, tidy the corner, study the subject, Visit the place. Movement under guidance multiplies guidance, for the universe rewards momentum that springs from peace rather than pressure. Some complain, I cannot hear guidance. Yet they hear perfectly the voice of fear because they have trained their inner ear through constant rehearsal of disaster and limitation. Retrain your receptive faculty by declaring upon waking, my path is ordered by divine intelligence. I go only where I am led, and my provision awaits me there. Before sleep, I invite wise instruction. In the night watches, my mind is taught, and I remember perfect direction in the morning. Expectation draws the answer, as a magnet draws iron filings from sand, opening channels that have been closed through doubt and disbelief. The law of circulation and generous giving operates beautifully through intuitive guidance, for inner wisdom reveals not only how much to give, but when, where, and to whom your generosity will create the greatest good. Guided giving multiplies through perfect placement, reaching recipients at precisely the right moment while opening channels for abundant return to the giver. This differs dramatically from forced or obligatory giving, which lacks the spiritual power that comes from following divine direction in your generosity. The woman who transformed her struggling boutique discovered that her greatest breakthroughs came not from following conventional business strategies, but from following inner promptings that often contradicted market wisdom. Guidance led her to hire someone with no experience but perfect intuition to stock a product line that research didn't support but customers loved, and to rearrange her displays in ways that seemed illogical but attracted ideal clientele. By learning to trust and follow divine guidance, she created a business that flowed with apparent ease while competitors struggled with traditional approaches. When results appear scarce, do not amplify effort, but amplify listening. Declare with authority, I stop all self-will, I welcome the perfect plan. Reveal, reveal, reveal. Then become watchful, for often the answer involves subtraction before addition, the task to drop, the client to release, the expense to retire, the habit to end. Pruning is not loss but divine design, creating space for new growth that serves your highest prosperity. Language itself can be forced or guided, and the quality of your words either escorts guidance into your affairs or creates resistance to its flow. The sentence, I must make money today, drums up strain and desperation, while my perfect supply seeks me now draws in channels you could not list through logical analysis. Speak words that invite divine arrangement. I am led in rich, right, radiant ways. Doors open of themselves, and I walk through with gratitude and grace. If you have a decision to make, place both options on the altar of silence and ask, which choice increases my peace and expands my life? Then listen not for fireworks but for the deeper breath, the sense of rightness that transcends logical argument. If both options create agitation, wait in faith, for waiting creates the proper vacuum that draws the perfect answer, carrying its own energy to enact itself. Once clarity comes, move swiftly, for the law respects promptness that follows certainty. The shift from forced action to intuitive guidance represents the shift from chasing supply to meeting it where it already waits with your name written upon it by divine appointment. Where fear once shouted, hustle, let guidance whisper, here. Where compulsion once drove you into crowds, let direction lead you to the one conversation that changes everything. Where plans once stacked themselves into towers of anxiety, let a single clear instruction unfold, a ladder you can climb one rung at a time. Each step illuminated by the light of infinite wisdom that knows the perfect path to your abundant good. The universe operates according to an eternal rhythm of circulation that governs the flow of all abundance, with the same mathematical precision as the circulation of blood through your body, or the movement of tides responding to lunar pull. This divine law establishes that to receive abundantly, you must give freely, not as a bargaining technique with reluctant cosmic forces, but as a demonstration of your unshakable faith in endless supply that flows through you rather than to you. transforming you from a stagnant reservoir into a flowing channel through which infinite abundance can bless the world while multiplying your own good beyond measure. The fundamental error most people make regarding generosity stems from operating under the illusion of scarcity, viewing every gift as depletion rather than investment, every act of giving as subtraction rather than multiplication in the divine mathematics of spiritual law. This consciousness of lack creates internal resistance that actually blocks the natural flow of supply, much like a dam that stops the river from reaching the ocean, preventing the very circulation that would ensure continuous replenishment from the infinite source. When you give from fear of not having enough, your gift carries the vibration of limitation and returns to you in kind, creating cycles of scarcity that confirm your deepest fears about insufficiency. Consciousness of abundance over pursuit of lack becomes absolutely essential for effective circulation. For when you know that your supply is unlimited, giving becomes natural rather than forced, flowing from overflow rather than obligation. Consider the woman who operated a small cafe on a quiet street, her receipts barely meeting expenses while anxiety about thin margins consumed her thoughts. She lived in the weary mathematics of subtraction until discovering the law of circulation through necessity. She began blessing each payment she made, speaking over every outgoing dollar. You go forth to increase, and you return to me multiplied under grace and in perfect ways. She sent warm meals to a nearby shelter, not from surplus, but from faith, gave modest discounts to a retired teacher who appreciated her soup, and wrote grateful notes to suppliers. Within a month, the shelter director brought groups for lunch, the teacher's bridge club met at the cafe twice weekly, and suppliers introduced her to local farms that elevated quality while reducing costs. She had not purchased customers through manipulation, but had circulated blessing, and blessing returned through unexpected channels that multiplied both revenue and joy. The creative power of spoken word amplifies generous giving exponentially when you bless your gifts with declarations that acknowledge their spiritual purpose and expected multiplication. As money leaves your hands, speak words that set circulation law in motion. This gift goes forth with my blessing and returns to me multiplied under grace. I give freely, knowing that infinite supply flows through me to bless all concerned. Your spoken word transforms simple material transactions into spiritual seeds that must produce fruit according to B12, divine law. For you have planted them in the fertile soil of faith rather than the barren ground of reluctant obligation. The practice of guided generosity proves infinitely more powerful than forced or obligatory giving, for intuitive guidance over forced action reveals not only how much to give, but when, where, and to whom your gifts will create the greatest good while opening the most effective channels for abundant return. Listen for inner promptings about your giving, for the same divine intelligence that guides your prosperity also directs your generosity. You may feel led to contribute to a particular person, organization, or cause that seems unrelated to your business interests, but proves perfectly orchestrated to open new channels of supply that logical planning could never discover. One designer worked tirelessly for modest pay, always over-delivering while undercharging from fear that clients would disappear if she valued her work appropriately. She gave without boundaries, from compulsion rather than guidance, then resented her generosity, which soured the stream of circulation. When she learned the law, she declared, "I give with wisdom and receive with ease. My work is generously valued under grace." She restructured her packages to include guided pro bono work rather than desperate over-delivering, set clear payment terms, and blessed each completed project as it left her hands. Within 3 months, her client roster stabilized, late payments vanished, and her income rose while her hours relaxed. Circulation became choreography of wise exchange rather than martyrdom disguised as service. Divine right and spiritual inheritance supports generous giving because when you know that abundance is your birthright, you can give freely without fear of depletion, understanding that your supply is guaranteed by spiritual law rather than dependent on material circumstances. You give not from your limited resources, but from your unlimited inheritance, making every gift an expression of your spiritual wealth rather than a sacrifice that diminishes your store. This consciousness transforms giving from the behavior of a beggar sharing crumbs to the action of an heir distributing from an inexhaustible estate. The systematic practice of tithing represents one of the most powerful applications of circulation law, establishing consistent flow of gratitude and faith that keeps abundance channels wide open. True tithing involves giving the first tenth of your income to spiritual work or wherever you receive spiritual food, not as payment for services, but as recognition of the source of all supply and demonstration of your faith in continued provision. This practice creates spiritual partnership with universal law, establishing you as a reliable channel through which abundance can flow to accomplish divine purposes while ensuring your own continuous supply. Many resist tithing because they cannot see how they can afford to give when bills press and income seems insufficient. Yet this very resistance reveals the consciousness of lack that blocks their prosperity. The law of circulation operates independently of current circumstances, responding to faith demonstrated through action rather than to logical calculations based on apparent limitations. When you tithe faithfully regardless of outer appearances, you make a powerful declaration that your supply comes from infinite source rather than from visible channels, opening the way for abundance to flow through unexpected avenues that human planning could never arrange. Circulation includes far more than money, encompassing words of praise, introductions, recommendations, time, skills, and attention as currency in the economy of spirit. Some cling frantically to funds while starving the world of encouragement, wondering why money ignores their door. Speak sincere words that increase another, and you deposit gold in your own account. Share contacts from a generous heart without calculating credit, and watch how your network blooms with right people arriving on schedule. Offer skills where welcomed, and paid opportunities gather like birds to a feeder that never runs dry. Even paying bills becomes part of sacred circulation when approached correctly. Many curse their bills while wishing for wealth, a contradiction that jams the gears of supply. A bill represents evidence that you are trusted with supply and have participated in the world's abundance. Bless it, declare it paid in full, and send payment as a messenger of increase. You go forth with my good will, returning to me in perfect ways. Your electricity lit your home. Your rent sheltered your rest. Your water ran clear and loyal. Do not send resentment through pipes that have served you faithfully. Gratitude oils the machinery of circulation and prevents the squeal of lack from stopping the flow. Order supports circulation by creating clear channels for abundance to flow. Clutter represents congealed fear, piles of postponed decisions that whisper there isn't enough time, energy, or money to complete cycles properly. Open drawers, release what no longer serves, and speak, I create clear channels for divine supply. Give away clothes that no longer sing your name. Pass on books that have finished their teaching. Return items to rightful owners. As you move stagnation out of your environment, stagnation moves out of your finances, for the vacuum you create draws in right equivalents according to spiritual law that never leaves true emptiness unfilled. The quality of consciousness behind your giving determines the nature of what returns, for the universe responds to the spirit in which gifts are offered rather than merely to material value. A dollar given with genuine love and faith in infinite supply carries more spiritual power than hundreds given grudgingly from obligation or fear. The law reads the heart of the giver and returns accordingly, multiplying generosity that flows from joy while limiting return on gifts that emerge from duty, guilt, or manipulation. Receiving gracefully proves as important as generous giving, for circulation requires both generous outflow and gracious inflow to maintain perfect balance. Many who give freely struggle to receive graciously, feeling unworthy of others' generosity or uncomfortable being on the receiving end of circulation they initiated. Learn to accept gifts, compliments, opportunities, and assistance with the same grace you demonstrate in giving, recognizing that willingness to receive keeps circulation flowing for everyone involved. Practice saying thank you without qualification when others offer gifts, avoiding the temptation to minimize what you receive or immediately reciprocate in ways that might make givers feel obligated. The practice of blessing others' prosperity accelerates your own circulation, for the universe responds generously to consciousness that celebrates rather than resents others' success. When you hear of someone's financial breakthrough, business success, or unexpected windfall, immediately bless their good fortune and declare that the same law prospering them is now prospering you. This practice aligns you with the flow of abundance, rather than creating resistance through envy or comparison, opening additional channels for your own prosperity to manifest through the magnetic power of celebration rather than the repelling force of resentment. Consider the real estate agent who struggled with jealousy when colleagues closed large deals while her sales remained modest. She transformed her practice by deliberately celebrating others' successes, sending congratulatory notes to agents who achieved major sales and genuinely blessing their prosperity. This shift in consciousness not only improved her relationships within the industry, but also magnetized opportunities to her own practice, as if her generous spirit toward others opened channels for the same abundance to flow into her experience through the law of like attracting like. Sometimes, circulation requires releasing what appears to be your best channel so the law can show you better opportunities. A teacher maintained a contract that paid poorly and demanded much, afraid to release it because she couldn't see other options. Inner guidance nudged her for months to release it with blessing until she finally obeyed, sending a gracious letter of gratitude and farewell while declaring, "I make room for my right work at right pay." Within 2 weeks, a district coordinator invited her to lead workshops at triple the rate with half the hours. She had not been starved by the universe, but stopped by her own clutching, for release often initiates the first movement in the dance of increase. Language escorts circulation by either knotting or unknotting the thread that ties supply to you. Replace "I can't afford it" with "it is not under my direction at present," or "if it is mine by divine right, it comes in perfect ways." Replace "money is going out again" with "money is circulating back to me multiplied." Your words either support or sabotage the flow. So speak increase over what leaves and gratitude over what arrives, declaring, "I see divine circulation everywhere in my life. What I give in love returns to me pressed down, shaken together, and running over, under grace." The law of circulation operates continuously, whether you participate consciously or unconsciously, for you are always giving something through thoughts, words, attitudes, and actions. The question becomes whether you give deliberately from consciousness of abundance or accidentally from consciousness of lack, whether you plant seeds of prosperity or weeds of limitation through daily interactions. Conscious participation in circulation allows you to direct this natural law toward your highest good while blessing everyone within your sphere of influence. Remember that circulation includes not only what you give away, but explancation, also how you spend money for goods and services, for every transaction becomes an opportunity to bless the flow of abundance through the economy. Pay bills with gratitude rather than resentment, recognizing that each payment represents circulation that keeps money flowing while demonstrating faith in continued supply. Bless the businesses you patronize, the service providers who assist you, and the products you purchase, understanding that your positive energy multiplies the value of every transaction and creates magnetic fields that attract additional abundance. Align your environment with circulation by creating a receiving shelf for gifts, contracts, checks, and joyful mail, blessing the space as a landing strip for good. Keep your wallet clean and orderly, speaking, "You are a faithful steward of increasing supply." File receipts promptly and label them with gratitude. These simple acts signal to your subconscious that you expect orderly increase, and your subconscious serves as the foreman who carries expectations to the job site of manifestation. Above all, remember that channels are many but source is one. Employers, clients, customers, donors, platforms, patrons, and royalties represent streams, not the spring. If one stream dwindles, bless it, and look to the hills of infinite intelligence that has 10,000 better channels ready. Declare, my good comes from every direction, through expected and unexpected avenues. I am an inlet and an outlet for divine supply. Move as an inlet when you receive, as an outlet when you give, and as a river always, knowing that the sea of abundance cannot run dry, and that your course is maintained by the same law that swells the tide and fills the nets of those who cast them with confidence in the deep waters of infinite provision that flow eternally. Through the generous heart that knows no lack and fears no limitation.